So thank you again for coming together as we do here at the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. I'm blessed today by having commissioners that you'll recognise and a couple of ones that have not been on these later sessions but were at the inaugural hearings that we held in Westminster. The International Tribunal of Natural Justice is essentially about natural justice. Just so that we're clear, let's understand what those words are. They're very simple. The words natural mean that which is not man-made, but that which resonates with everything that is natural, with nature, with all that is around us. Justice, as I've said before, just is. And justice is something that we all understand because it acts as the antithesis, as it were, to what is wrong. And we know what that is too, all of us. We're not here to judge. We're here to hear testimony and to hear your words. And so without further ado, that's what I think we should go to straight away. So I'd ask you, because it's important that what you say to be the truth, to give an oath. And an oath is as simple as that as well. It just means that you believe that what you're saying is the truth as you remember it. So if you could please do that, perhaps we would swear in a witness.
Yes. I, Mariana Maritato, solemnly affirm by all that is sacred and righteous that my testimony is given freely and without coercion and is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you very much. So to begin, perhaps you could, in your own words now, I know that you've said these things before to other people, but to really start afresh with us and to begin with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to give my personal testimony today to this commission. I appreciate the work that you are all doing. This abbreviated testimony is about my experience with torture inflicted with the use of directed energy weapons. What you will hear today will be merely the highlights from the 30-page notarized affidavit that I have already submitted as written testimony to the commission, along with video evidence, pictures, and audio files, as well as numerous professional reports that have provided evidence in my case. I will start with my professional background. I graduated college summa cum laude with a 3.9 GPA with a Bachelor in Science degree in Speech and Hearing Sciences. And I graduated with my Master in Science degree in Communication Disorders to become a speech-language pathologist. I also later studied and trained to become a certified aromatherapist and also a certified health coach. I also became a certified English teacher as well as an accent modification specialist for speakers of English as a new language. As a speech therapist, I have worked with children and adults throughout my profession in various clinical settings, including my work with adults in hospitals for 6 years. Some work in nursing homes, and my work with kids in school districts, and now in private practice. I had been managing my own private practice for about 2 years when I began experiencing the overt forms of extreme torture, though I later realized I was inducted into some sort of program covertly since very early childhood and possibly since birth. It was towards the middle of August of 2015, when I was 36 years old, when I experienced 3 full nights and days without any sleep at all, something I had never experienced before. I went to the emergency room and the doctor did a complete physical workup, including blood and urine tests and an EKG heart test in addition to a physical exam. Everything was normal and he stated my health was fine, prescribed sleeping pills, and recommended I follow up with my general doctor, which I did. I tried 3 types of prescription sleeping pills at their highest dosages, and none of them worked at all. After the 3 consecutive days with no sleep, I was allowed to sleep normally for about 3 to 4 days straight. And then after that, I was only allowed to sleep from 1 to 3 hours per night for some time. I missed an entire week of work and didn't know if I would ever be able to work again. Then I experienced what felt like a severe microwaving of my brain, with my entire brain feeling very hot at the time of the incident, and then immediately thereafter, I felt severe nausea and almost threw up. Then my brain was left feeling completely and severely numb for days, and I could barely function or think. Shortly thereafter, I got my period 2 weeks early, when I was usually very regular with my menstrual cycles. Additionally, I normally have very light periods and for only about 3 days on average. But this time it was at least 6 days long and a very unusually heavy flow. I researched it later and discovered that this is one of the well-known biological effects of severe microwave radiation poisoning. Then the severe electronic sexual assaults started. And when I say severe, I really mean extreme. I experienced an entire night with forced spontaneous orgasms repeatedly all through the night, one right after another, with maybe around 1 hour of sleep or so, as I lay immobilized in my bed in complete fear. This experience, along with the brain being microwaved and along with some internet research, is what made me put the puzzle pieces together to realize that I was experiencing remote external manipulation via electronic weapons, because these symptoms of sexual assault were not physiologically normal or possible without external manipulation. It is not physiologically normal to just have repeated spontaneous orgasms all through the night like that, literally one right after another. And then it all made sense when I learned about microwave weapons. In 2015, I began to experience what some call V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as destructive and violent. Recently, they even started adding moaning and groaning sounds to the V2K and started putting actual creaking sounds directly in the walls to make it sound as though people are having sex. And I was able to audio record these rhythmic creaking sounds and have submitted this file to the commission. These voices are vulgar, violent, cruel, and constantly threatening and using profanities that I never use. They repeat certain phrases excessively, as I learned that repetition is a form of torture in and of itself. They frequently threaten to give me cancer, a stroke, or other medical emergency. They threaten to hurt my family. They threaten to make me lose all my money. They frequently threaten to do more extreme torture, etc. The voices also frequently tell me to commit suicide, something that is simply out of the question for me. Just the threatening alone is done at extreme levels and is its own form of torture. They coordinate the voices and thought manipulation with the physical torture, so that everything is highly synchronized in real time. They can see everything in my environment before I can, and if something is hidden out of my sight, they can tell me where it is, if they want me to see it. Likewise, they can also make me not see something that is right in front of my face. At first, I thought they were real humans because of how they related to me in real time, just like a human would. But then I realized I was communicating with a very highly advanced form of artificial intelligence that is able to respond and interact faster than the speed of thought to every single thought in my mind, while synchronizing the torture in my body at the same time. The timing of it all, along with the complexity of it all, seems like more than what a human would be capable of doing on their own. I began attending nightly support conference calls with other victims of electronic assault. I quickly saw the patterns in the way many people are targeted, including myself. I believe this is why William Binney and Kirk Wiebe, the NSA whistleblowers, are conducting an international survey of victims of these crimes to show the statistically significant patterns in victims' testimonies. I also came to the realization that my experience was considerably much more extreme than others, not only because of the quality or types of the many various forms of torture, but also the severity levels and the frequency. I realized also that the perpetrators targeting me were using much more advanced technologies than what many others were experiencing and witnessing, especially since others with milder targeting reported improvements with various shielding methods, but none of them worked at all to any degree for me in shielding against these highly advanced military-grade directed energy weapons. At that time, I also watched a History Channel documentary on YouTube on MKUltra, and saw some of the victims being horribly tortured, screaming in horrific agony, and I realized that my experience was actually much more comparable to that. And that wasn't what most others were reporting, though some were as well. My experience, unlike many others, involves absolutely horrific torture to the complete extreme on a regular basis. And everywhere I go becomes an absolute torture chamber. In one scene of that MKUltra documentary, a nurse in a hospital talked about a certain room in the hallway that apparently was the experimental room and how she would hear horrific screams coming from that room. Similarly, there are horrific screams from torture coming out of any room I spend significant time in wherever I go. I don't know what program I was put into, but it looks like some form of MKUltra-like program, and others have noted that it looks like some type of eugenics program. Now I would like to talk about some of the evidence that I have been able to collect. I went to a private investigator in March of 2016 by the name of Melinda Kidder, who specialized in these types of cases. She is available for testimony as well. Then I had a professional trace the frequencies using the FCC allocation registrations. I also had a nanopatch test done by a toxicologist by the name of Dr. Hildegard Staninger. The reports revealed that I had synthetic nanotechnology in my body produced in a lab and not at all naturally occurring in the human body, and that the type of nanotechnology used indicated some possible use for non-consensual human experimentation. The frequencies emanating from my body were slightly above normal. One of the reports revealed the presence of HSP, heat shock protein 72, human tumor cells, immune system, and CTL29. According to the report, the bioenergy field exposure to HSP72 human tumor cells, immune system, and CTL29 is addressed in stem cell delivery systems as associated with neural oscillator sensors to deliver specific gene therapies and nano delivery platforms. These specific parameters are made in a laboratory and not found in a human being unless they are going through some kind of new medical treatment for cancer or other diseases, which I'm not. Additionally, there was a presence of infrared glass in my body, which is associated with metal particulate matter, even nano metal particles. Some of the frequencies being directed toward my body were traced back to the Department of Homeland Security, the US military, Medical Body Area Networks, MBAN, and some others, according to Dr. Staninger's reports. Additionally, however, I purchased my own spectrum analyzer and was able to not only confirm these frequency bands in various locations, including outside the US, but also found many others that I have been able to document and also trace the frequencies myself in separate documents that I have already submitted to the commission. The people who are doing these types of crimes in my case are in the upper echelons of government, essentially operating outside the rule of law, violating all basic human rights. In 2016, I underwent a psychological evaluation, and the psychologist determined that my experiences were not attributable to mental illness, but rather that my case indeed looks like electronic assault. I also have various other forms of physical evidence of this electronic torture. For example, I experience what I refer to as suffocation. This is where I feel that my lungs are being significantly restricted in the inhalation process. I am able to exhale, but have difficulty making a full inhalation. It is analogous to a balloon that can deflate, but cannot be inflated all the way. Sometimes I can also feel my lungs literally being deflated, and then I have difficulty reinflating them. The perpetrators often do very severe levels of suffocation for many hours through the day and night on a daily basis, and have been doing so for almost 3 years now. I have been able to show the reduction in inhalation with an incentive spirometer, which is a device commonly used in medical settings to show the lung capacity during inhalation and to help exercise the lungs. As a biker and overall healthy person, I've always had a good, healthy lung capacity, as I discovered one day long ago in a college anatomy and physiology class when we tested our lung capacity in one of the lab classes, and I had actually tested above average. Under normal conditions, on average, I have been able to move the incentive spirometer to at least 3,500 milliliters, sometimes more. And when I am being suffocated, I can clearly show a significant reduction, often down to the 2750 milliliter range or so. I have video of this evidence, which I have submitted to the commission. I had also devised a way to establish some physical evidence of the electronic sexual assaults, and I have video of this evidence, which I have also submitted already to the commission. I had found a special kind of thermometer that has a long cord as a probe that I am able to insert vaginally while holding the other end of the thermometer up to the video camera. The numbers on the thermometer clearly go up during severe zaps to the genitals, and then clearly decrease significantly when not being zapped. And then they increase again once zapped again, in a direct correlation between the spikes in temperature and the zaps to the genitals, which were marked by noticeable facial expressions of pain, such as wincing, etc. Additionally, I completed an overnight sleep study showing severe deviations from normal for my EEG function during sleep and highly abnormal sleep patterns, whereas I was sleeping relatively normally prior to 2015. I have been allowed to sleep about 3 to 5 hours per night on average, and often broken up into short segments with plenty of severe torture upon each awakening throughout the night. The nights are often very long and filled with various forms of severe and highly inhumane torture, making me feel every single minute go by so slowly. I also have hundreds of hours of video recordings from the past 3 years of torture. I have submitted a 6-minute video to the commission showing some of the extreme torture. Yet, as extreme as that was, it wasn't as extreme as it gets, and it can be for many hours at a time on a regular basis. It is truly inhumanely brutal torture to the very extreme, beyond what words can possibly describe. I have a video showing when they started burning my finger on one occasion in real time, right during the recording of the video. You can clearly see a triangular shaped indentation in my skin with a glossy, watery top. I have submitted this video to the commission as well. I also have witness testimonies from the couple from church that I lived with for 4 months who witnessed many of the extreme episodes of torture while in their home. I have submitted their notarized affidavits to the commission. And I also have a lot of pictures of the many bruises, bite marks, burns, and cuts they have inflicted directly with the electronic weapons, but also from forcing me to bite myself, etc. And I have pictures of some of the visible physical manifestations from the electronic torture, including the very severe belly bloating. For example, in one picture, I look as though I am at least 5 months pregnant, while in another picture, just 1 week later, I look closer to my normal. I also have pictures of the massive amounts of hair that fall out. I also have pictures from my live blood analysis showing the aggregation of red blood cells. It is known that microwave frequencies can cause the aggregation of red blood cells, putting the person at risk for many health conditions. I have also submitted all of these pictures to the commission. I would also like to add my professional testimony as a speech pathologist. There is copious evidence throughout the scientific literature of the strong, well-established association between psychosis and language impairment, particularly what is called formal thought disorder. The scientific literature discusses very specific, well-established patterns of impairment in the patient population with various types of psychoses. In my professional observation when talking and listening to victims of electronic assaults, which I have interacted with from all over the world and have listened to very many of them over the past 3 years, for the most part, I observed coherent, normal speech and language patterns, even for those with English as a new language. I observed minimal signs of impairment, such as mild memory difficulties, along with mild word-finding difficulties in some cases. Whereas I recall working in hospitals and nursing homes and having had clinical experience with the clinical population of patients with schizophrenia, and I remember observing distinct voice, speech, and cognitive linguistic patterns of impairment that are substantiated in the scientific literature and consistent with formal thought disorder. Recently, the medical doctors and researchers who evaluated US diplomats from China and Cuba concluded that their so-called sonic attacks were actually most likely caused by microwave weapons. The world needs to know that the US diplomats were not the only ones, and that thousands, if not millions, of innocent civilians around the world are being assaulted with various types of directed energy weapons for various reasons and by various groups of people. These inhumane crimes are truly rampant and putting many people's lives at risk. They affect men, women, and children. Many have died already. These crimes must be stopped with absolute urgency. During the 2004 Bioethics Committee, the Obama administration attempted to find if any continued unethical practices were being committed. There were over 300 victims of electronic assaults who showed up to testify, and only a very small number of them were allowed a few minutes to testify each. At the end of the day, the rest of them were dismissed without being heard, and the Obama administration concluded that there was no wrongdoing, and they further stated in a letter that they never wanted to hear from these victims again. In Richmond, California, the City Council heard a number of victim testimonies along with professional testimonies and ended up enacting a city ordinance for victims of electronic assaults. This was the first of its kind in the United States. In 2016, the president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte, reported hearing the voice of God while up on an airplane. The voice told him to stop swearing so much. He promised to do so, but then later, when he discovered it wasn't really God, he continued swearing as usual. People need to start connecting the dots more and realizing that directed energy weapons are being used more than people realize. There are also various whistleblowers who have spoken out about the use of directed energy weapons on civilians. For example, David Voits is a former Navy officer. Dr. John Hall is an anesthesiologist who has written 2 books on the topic. Dr. Robert Duncan worked for the CIA long ago and helped create the technologies used to cause the voices known as V2K. He has written books on the topic as well. Around March of 2016, I learned about the Polish Minister of Defense holding a press conference admitting the occurrence of electronic assaults on civilians. And he promised a 6-month investigation. I decided to go to Poland to help with their activism efforts and perhaps get some relief from the daily and nightly extreme torture I was continuing to experience constantly, since I thought perhaps it might stop when leaving the country. However, the torture only got much worse during my 7 months in Poland. Even on the airplane, I was tortured the entire time, being suffocated and sexually assaulted, and much more. I have my own spectrum analyzer, and I have been able to replicate the frequency ranges discovered by the private investigator and in my reports. I have been able to show a clear pattern of federal government and military frequencies that are always directed at me, whether I am in the US or Poland, or whether I am in one part of the US or another. The torture was often so severe that I would spend hours and hours screaming so loudly, day and night. I would be intentionally made to fall on my knees from the severe attacks and would have bruises all over my knees and hands when hitting the hard floor. Then once on the floor, I would be attacked so severely, nearly to the point of passing out and rolling my eyes to the back of my head in such excruciating agony for many, many hours on a regular, nearly daily basis. The nature and level of extreme torture I have experienced for the past 3 years is simply indescribable. Not even the video recordings could truly capture the internal experience, especially when the torture involves both physical and mental psychological factors and the direct manipulation of my internal experiences, including my reactions and responses to the torture. The Polish Minister of Defense later retracted all his statements, denying the existence of electronic assault crimes, and he also never completed the 6-month investigation. During a news interview, the former Prime Minister of Poland openly admitted to having received hundreds of letters from victims of electronic assault during his administration. I decided to return to the US at the end of March of 2017. Now I would like to describe some of the forms of torture in more detail and also describe some of the effects to my health I have experienced. The nature of the torture I have been experiencing has been highly sexual in nature and highly perverted, involving many combinations of sensory and motor manipulation of my mind and body and of the people around me. This includes many different types of zaps to varying degrees to the genitals, butt, anus, and the entire pelvic area. This also includes many kinds of movements, such as the rocking, swaying, jolting, vibrating, and shaking of my entire body or various body parts, specifically in a sexual way. The severe vibration is a highly noxious stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. There are also body movements such as rocking my pelvic area back and forth, repeated rubbing sensations, the sensation of something going up my crotch and in and out, etc. They also often force vaginal discharges and zap my genitals at the same time. These sexual assaults are present throughout the day, every day, and anytime I am awakened at night, every night. They range from mild to extreme, but usually involve daily and nightly continuous assaults for the past 3 years now. When severe, the zaps to the genitals feel as though someone is electrocuting my genitals repeatedly. I also often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes. It also includes videos of violence and grotesque figures, and sometimes numbers and other symbols used to threaten torture. This forces me to open my eyes, even when I'm so sleep deprived. I experience frequent, severe forced movements of my eyeballs side to side, up and down, and bulging in and out. The forced eyeball movements are very often extreme, and I experience it often for many hours at a time, particularly through the night, nearly every night. This is often combined with other forms of torture. They also inflict forced biting, where they make me bite my hands and arms forcefully, leaving severe bite marks and bruises. I sometimes have to sleep with 2 pairs of gloves on my hands to help prevent the severe, painful bite marks and bruising. They are horribly violent, and they often threaten more extreme forms of violence. One of the things that the V2K repeats often is, "We only get worse." They also often zap my genitals very forcefully while at the same time forcing repeated strong, painful muscle contractions all over my body that are very exhausting, so that it feels as though I ran a marathon through the night instead of sleeping. This is one of the reasons why I have not been able to exercise since this level of torture started in August of 2015, when I was previously very physically active and fit. The chronic severe sleep deprivation plus so much torture day and night has completely exhausted me and debilitated my muscles. I have seen significant muscle weakness and flaccidity since 2015. Additionally, I experience frequent planted dreams and dream manipulation. They have also done planted dreams and absolute nightmares of my family members suffering. Throughout the past 3 years, I have experienced episodes of varying degrees of nausea and dizzy spells. They also have many, many ways to make the suffocation worse, as if that were possible. When it is cold outside, they often suffocate me severely while putting sharp pain in my lungs as I tried to gasp in for cold air. They also often put mucus in my throat to make it more difficult to breathe when they do the severe suffocation. They also sometimes stuff my nose up while suffocating me, and many other ways. They also use the suffocation and the burping to threaten more severe sexual assaults. The burping is often very severe, and I have many hours of video recording showing this unusual form of repeated and often severe torture. This is not something someone does naturally physiologically, and there is no medical condition that would cause this level of severe repeated burping for hours at a time, nearly every day like this. They also do forced limb movements, making me flail my limbs around. Just recently, for about a few months, they increased the severity of the suffocation while I eat to very extreme. Additionally, they not only do such severe suffocation while eating, but they also do severe dysregulation of my swallow function so that I can barely swallow and it feels as though I'm going to choke and therefore can barely eat at times. Now the severity is variable. Additionally, sometimes they do severe sensory burns in my mouth when eating or teeth pain, and they often do multiple forms of torture in the same meal. At their most severe, severity levels always vary. I have gone through maybe at least 2 pitchers of water in one meal and have taken over 2 hours to eat just 7 ounces of food, seriously gasping for air repeatedly the whole entire time. It was infinitely more severe than I have ever seen in even the most severe of my dysphagia patients when I was working in hospitals specializing in this area of clinical practice for 6 years. Had I seen that in any of my patients, I would have had to recommend a feeding tube. They also sometimes put mucus in my throat to make it even more difficult to breathe and swallow. They also often manipulate my sensation of hunger. They bloat my belly so severely that it looks as though I am pregnant. This makes eating even more difficult, and it also makes the suffocation so much worse because of the weight pressing down on me and on my belly. It is heavy and painful and done every day. I have only been eating about 2 small meals per day for a long time now because of the torture. They do extreme forms of torture and at very extreme levels and on a regular, repeated, and continuous fashion over a very long period of time. I am also a certified health coach, and I have done everything I can to ensure my continued good health, including trying to go for a walk as often as possible, which has become the only form of exercise I have been able to do since 2015. And even that, I'm not able to do as much as I'd like due to the exhaustion every day, as well as the sexual assaults that make it difficult to walk at times. For the past 3 years, it has been all about survival, literally, just trying to keep myself alive to get me to the day when I can be free from this torture. Every day has been a miracle of survival. I also experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and videos in my closed eyes. Specific foods or things like flowers, etc. Feces, urine, and also they often do the smell of sex. They have also manipulated my computer and other electronics in various ways so that I know they are able to manipulate anything electronic. They have even locked me out of my office building that uses an electronic key. It is often very difficult and an immense battle just to even sit on the toilet to go to the bathroom. Not only because of the bowel and bladder manipulation, but also because of the frequent severe sexual assaults on the genitals, my butt and anus, shaking, vibrating, and rocking my body back and forth, and forced eyeball movements, and phantom touch sensations doing rubbing sensations, etc. Can I get a little sip of water?
No worries at all. Thank you very much for your testimony. And for giving all the information that you've now provided for us. Now, just taking you through that, mindful of time as well, and I know you're mindful of the time as well, but perhaps carry on, but please direct it into the direction that you wish to really sum this up.
Okay, well, I was told I was going to have an hour.
I'm just looking at it, sort of moving on, but please carry on.
Okay, thank you. They also frequently connect torture with various people, places, or things to make fear associations. They try to associate fear with everything in my environment. They often will do a new form of torture and then associate that torture to a certain number or symbol so that then whenever I see that number or symbol, it becomes a threat for that particular kind of torture. I have heard testimonies from MKUltra survivors who have reported that they were shown objects such as a washing machine and then electrocuted repeatedly to create fear associations, which is very similar to my experience. I have experienced a loss of vision since 2015 when I previously had 20/20 vision prior to that. I often also experience deafness intermittently when they turn it on and off. They also make me drop things and sometimes causing them to break or causing things to spill. I have also experienced hot-cold sensations, often alternating repeatedly through the day. My hair falls out in clumps very severely. They have also broken 3 of my teeth, making it very difficult to chew. Additionally, they have done extremely excruciating nerve pain, like a root canal with no anesthetic in my teeth. Sometimes when I eat and other times when I brush my teeth, and they often vary the level of severity as with all their forms of torture. Recently, they did a few weeks of the most profoundly extreme teeth pain I have ever experienced that would make me fall to my knees in tears of despair and unable to function or even think. No tooth anesthetic ointment works at reducing the pain at all, even at its mildest levels, much less at its most profoundly extreme levels. It feels as though you're having your teeth extracted with no anesthesia repeatedly. In 2015, I also experienced extreme sensory burns all over my legs and sometimes on my face and arms. The first incident of this was so extreme and highly traumatizing that it made me let out a most horrific piercing scream. This is completely sensory, so it leaves no marks, but it feels like you're being thrown into a fire while still alive. One day in 2015, also, I was awakened in the middle of the night with my left arm completely limp, as though there was no bone in it, or as though it had been paralyzed, and it had a horrific numb-like sensation in addition to a severe burning sensation. I awoke suddenly in the most extreme, piercing screams, not knowing what to do other than to just cradle the totally flaccid arm in my other hand while screaming hysterically, and then it quickly returned to normal, but left me very traumatized. Something they have been doing for about the past 4 months or so has been the symptoms of a yeast infection, which they turn off or on, as well as up or down in severity. Right after nearly every shower, and sometimes during the shower, they do severe symptoms of a yeast infection, sometimes making me scratch my genitals so much that it leaves my genitals painfully raw, making it hard to walk or sit or go to the bathroom. I would now like to talk about the people around me being manipulated by these electronic weapons as well. There does not appear to be a need for microchips or nanotechnologies to manipulate the minds and bodies of anyone around me, anywhere in the world, which I have repeatedly witnessed. For example, they make people around me burp, hiccup, and sneeze repeatedly, especially the sneezing, because the V2K says it's like an orgasm, so they make people around me sneeze excessively to threaten more sexual assaults. I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me, as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. In one session, the 5-year-old girl with Down syndrome chose to play with the Red Rover electronic toy dog that calls out the color of the bones that the child is supposed to put in his mouth. This child started saying the colors of the bones before the dog would call them out, and she was correct every time. And since the V2K uses colors as symbols for torture as well, they were using this to threaten more severe torture in me. I also have had a couple of kids that experienced zaps of pain to their hands as they covered the sore spot with their other hand, saying, "ouch." While the V2K in my head talks about masturbation, they talk about masturbation frequently and other sexual things. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, "ow," while looking up at me. A while back, I had a 4-year-old client at my office who complained of disturbing sounds in his ears when none were around. It only happened as soon as he entered my office. Once he complained of a roaring, drilling construction sound in his ears that I then later heard myself when I got home as a form of V2K, and the V2K said, "that's what he heard," and put the child's image in my mind along with the memory of the incident. Most of the kids I work with are accompanied by their parents to their therapy sessions, which is something I encourage so that I can provide parent education on therapy techniques that they can implement at home to continue supporting and helping the child make more progress. Now I would like to talk about some of my own childhood memories. I believe that I was put into some type of program since very early childhood and possibly from the time I was born. I was born in Argentina during the time of a military dictatorship and what was called the disappearance, when the government was targeting thousands of people to throw them out of boats and airplanes, essentially disappearing them. I learned that the CIA from the US was helping Argentina during this time with this disappearing. I also learned that there were over 10,000 Nazis who were taken from Germany to Argentina to escape after World War II, including many of the highest ranking Nazis, such as Dr. Joseph Mengele and others. I learned that they populated certain parts of Argentina more than others, including the province of Buenos Aires, where I was born, as well as the province of Entre Rios, where there was a reportedly large population of German Nazis, and that also happens to be where my mother studied nursing at a Seventh-day Adventist university and completed her clinicals at their medical clinic as well for 4 years. I also learned from Dr. Joseph Farrell's book titled SS Brotherhood of the Bell, The Nazis' Incredible Secret Technology, that the Nazis in Germany were working on an advanced weapon project called the Bell, and that eventually this Bell, along with other weapons, were taken from Germany to Argentina. Dr. Farrell also discusses that the Nazis were also working on very advanced scalar weapons, and they had mastered the use of many of their advanced directed energy weapons well before I was born. When I was around 7 years old, I developed severe restless leg syndrome. I read that in kids, this is usually genetic. However, no one else in my family had this. This is done now usually in combination with other forms of torture to completely agitate and exhaust my whole nervous system. At around that same time, I developed difficulty swallowing as a child with no medical reason for it. This is also what the perpetrators have started doing again now at very severe levels, if not extreme at times. Additionally, as a child, I would experience repeated swallowing. I would have to swallow excessively multiple times repeatedly. This is also something that the perpetrators do now excessively. When I was 10 years old, during the summertime, I experienced horribly forceful thoughts in my mind to kill someone. This was particularly odd given that I was a very well-behaved child and had never had those types of thoughts like that before. The thoughts to kill someone also came with uncomfortable sensations in my head, and it was all so highly disturbing that I told my mom about it. She then became highly disturbed over it and didn't know what to do, so she called the neighbor and asked what she should do. Seeing my mom's distress over the situation, I quickly stated that it had gone and all was fine, though the thoughts and sensations remained for a while longer that summer and then finally stopped, only to return again the following summer and then went away again. When the extreme torture started up in 2015, the V2K directly kept telling me to kill or hurt others, which I just simply would never do. Additionally, when I was about 10 years old, I also felt very odd sensations around my head one day when I was outside in our patio that were particularly severe and are consistent with some of the sensations I have been experiencing since 2015, when I discovered what was going on due to the increase in severity and the nature of the torture. These sensations were highly disturbing and I never forgot it. I would also like to mention the death of my oldest sister in 2012. On one occasion, she had to be intubated and placed on a ventilator for a while. She began to improve and we were all thrilled to be talking about discharging her home from the hospital on the ventilator. The doctor that was working with her went on vacation and a new doctor stepped in. The next morning when we went to the hospital to see her, we found that the new doctor had just extubated her, removing the ventilator. He had not consulted with anyone in my family before doing so, and he had not even consulted with the respiratory therapist who later told us he knew she was not ready to be extubated. This caused my 43-year-old sister to die slowly over the course of many hours as we all sat around her, including her then 13-year-old daughter. I feel strongly that the doctor's actions were manipulated by the same perpetrators torturing me. Also, interestingly, some years prior to the loss of my sister, I felt a strong thought in my mind that either I or someone I loved would die when I turned 33 years of age. My sister died when I was 33 years of age, and the perpetrators love to use number symbolism all the time now. Additionally, I would like to discuss my mother. My mother was diagnosed with a condition called polycythemia vera over 10 years ago. This condition is known to often be caused by radiation exposure. In the past few years, she has developed severe gangrene on her foot, and all her toes on that one foot fell off. No doctor can explain this, as there is no medical reason for it. She is now no longer able to walk, is in frequent pain, and is wheelchair bound when she was previously such an active person. One day, she broke out in an unusual rash all over her hands, and the V2K said that they had done that, and they kept talking about masturbation. The V2K also frequently threatens to hurt my mom, and they often say that she's dying, and they do horrible planted dreams. They use the number 22 to threaten anything having to do with my mom because that's her birthday. Right after my sister died, I developed a huge lump in my left breast. For almost a month, I thought I was dying of breast cancer. This was immediately after my sister passed away, the first day I arrived in the new state after moving from the old state, which was also a very stressful move, particularly at that time. I was able to later go to get an ultrasound done and discover that it was just a giant cyst that was over 3 inches big and could barely fit on the ultrasound screen. It slowly went away on its own, but took over a year to do so. It wasn't until recently that I realized that the perpetrators had created that breast cyst to make me think that I was dying of cancer like my sister and cause serious psychological torture. This was proven to me one day in 2017 when I was sitting on the floor reading recipe books and the V2K told me to touch my right breast. I said, no. They insisted again and I said, leave me alone. Then they proceeded to make my right breast itch, forcing me to scratch it and feel that there was a large lump in that breast. And the V2K said, yes, we did. And they put memories in my mind of the previous breast cyst right after my sister had died, which was on the left side. They said, we're evening it out now. They also threatened to really turn this one into breast cancer to make me die a horrible death, like how we watched my sister go through, which was a horrible trauma watching her die. So I know for sure that these perpetrators were responsible for both breast cysts to inflict severe psychological torture. The V2K loves to talk about how they are destroying me and every part of me and my life bit by bit. Living with this most extreme form of mental and physical torture, where all of the most basic of human functions are routinely severely manipulated, has been pure survival. And just trying to keep my body alive and my spirit strong in this battle for my life, particularly over the past 3 years. I am not able to maintain a full-time job. I am self-employed with flexible working hours. Also, I have not been able to drive due to the torture. This experience has completely catapulted me into intense spiritual development. I think that what should alarm people is not so much that these highly advanced technologies exist with all of their capabilities, given that they can also clearly be used as tools to heal, but rather that there are people who would use them in these ways. These inhumane crimes must be immediately stopped with a sense of absolute urgency if we are to value and uphold a free, safe, and civil society for men, women, and children everywhere on this planet. Thank you for hearing my testimony today.
Thank you very much. And I think you've been very, very full and open, and actually the second part dealt with some of the questions that I had. And so I'm very, very obliged for you giving us that time today. I'm going to put it to Dr. Corrine, who's here as well, and is our resident expert in many of these matters. There's a few questions I have, but first of all, I'll give the floor to Dr. Corrine.
Okay.
I have some questions that surely people around the world will also have. And the first one is why you, Mariana?
Yes, that is a very good question. And I always ask myself that too. And the truth is, I just don't know. Right now, I just don't know. Why me?
You've been working with victims from the same torture and mental
Yes.
harassment. Were they all high IQ levels?
There was a survey conducted by a nonprofit organization a long time ago, and they found that 70% of victims were women, and they were women with advanced degrees. So there does appear to be a pattern of women being targeted with advanced degrees, advanced education. Yes.
So 70% are women.
Yes, but currently Dr. William Binney and Kirk Wiebe are conducting another survey, and that will give us more current information.
So if I understand it well, this is known by a certain amount of people, and some people are investigating this.
Yes, very much so, yes. And like I said, the attacks on the US diplomats in China and Cuba were now found to be caused by microwave weapons.
Mm-hmm.
By the doctors and scientists who evaluated them.
So can we state that you have been used as guinea pigs for later purposes of, not that you are not important, Mariana.
I know, I understand your question.
Blackmailed,
yeah.
Besides sexual abuse and torture and satanic rituals on children.
Yes.
That they can be forced into certain situations by these methods you are describing now. Is this possible?
Yes, that is possible. There is some evidence of non-consensual human experimentation going on in many cases, actually. So, and actually that's the name of a book, Guinea Pigs. I think Dr. John Hall wrote that one. But yeah, so actually, yes, that's very possible, indeed.
Do you have a partner?
No, I don't.
Are you able to have a love life?
Right now, I choose not to. Actually, with this experience, I've been so focused on spiritual development, and I feel that that's what I'm really wanting to focus on right now is very, very deep spiritual development.
But you do know that love is a very, very powerful healing.
Oh, yes, definitely. I agree completely, but it's just not my time right now for that.
Okay, it's up to you to feel it, but I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Is it possible that you yourself have become a transponder towards others in your area? You know what I mean? It's like
yes,
you are the ball, and without being conscious of it, you inflict the same things on children you're working with. Is this possible?
No, it is not possible. I have seen, what I have witnessed is the manipulation of people around me, not just in my immediate vicinity, geographically, location-wise. I have witnessed the manipulation of people around me, even around the world, if I'm on video conferencing with them around the world or off-site. So I know for a fact that people anywhere in the world can be manipulated and influenced or affected, and they do not have to be in my immediate vicinity. Okay. I have witnessed that.
Okay. Well, for the moment, I have no further questions. It is really troubling what they are doing to us, and we will not allow it, Mariana.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for your brave statement.
Thank you.
We also have another one of our commissioners here as well. Justin, have you got any questions?
Yes, thank you. Mariana, I really do feel desperately sorry for you. When I read your initial, we were given, it said here, I also went to a toxicologist who discovered nanotechnology in my body that was clearly synthetically made in the lab. Could I ask, whereabouts did they find this part? And do you have any recollection how this could have got into your body?
I have no recollection of how or when that got into my body. At this point, it would be pure speculation, but nanotechnology is so easy to get into people's bodies. I mean, you could just spray something or put something on a person's doorknob, you know. That's one of the easiest things to get into a person's body. So I don't know how, I don't know when.
Yeah. No. The other thing is, this is all a new area for me, so I'm trying to look at this from a purely layperson's view, but we have the Catholic Church at the moment who are in great turmoil with the way children have been abused. Now, the way you reacted in many occasions, I could hear a priest saying, you're possessed of a devil, you are possessed, you are possessed. Now, I don't know if the Catholic Church have made any comments about this. As I say, I'm just trying to be a layperson, trying to get to the bottom of what's going on, because we do know that the Vatican have huge questions to answer about their morality and what they're really doing. So I just wonder if there's any connection, do you think, between how they try and perhaps disguise what the powers that be are doing, with perhaps using the Catholic Church to try and disguise it that you are, you know, being possessed by the devil and all this sort of stuff. I'm out of my depth here, but I'm trying to be a layperson, because I know the Vatican, deep down, are not representing our best interests.
Yes.
I don't think the Vatican's come up in this particular a set of questions. So I just put that there, that at the moment very much is in relation, I think, to incidents that occurred in childhood, previous childhood, in relation to people in Argentina and other events around you in the latter part of your life now. Are those the main events, or have we uncovered something else?
Well, what I would say is that I think that directed energy weapons are being used a lot more than people realize. I don't know when, but I do believe that it's possible that that they could be used to fake things that are, like, for example, a possession, a demon possession, or they're used to get people, for example, whistleblowers, they're used to target whistleblowers and make them to be discredited, to make people believe that they have a mental illness of some kind. So they're made to be used to make people believe different things about people. And they're used a lot more than people realize.
I agree. To be honest, I agree. Sometimes you see people change in front of your eyes and you don't understand why. What is happening?
I would also like to add, I recently heard a testimony from a Catholic nun who reported that because she became a whistleblower for the pedophilia that was going on in the church. And because she became a whistleblower, she became targeted similar to me. And she also got the nanotechnology in her body. And she was also electronically assaulted as well. So, and this was coming from the Catholic Church as well. So I do believe that there is some connection, and that they may be some of the people who may be using these technologies as well, possibly.
And then those people end up in psychiatric or mental hospitals.
Yes, sometimes.
Where they can be exploited even more.
Exactly.
Poor people.
Yes.
You're strong, Mariana. You're strong. And okay, I agree, maybe the spiritual world will help you with that, but the strength is within you.
Yes.
You keep saying, no, I'm not going to do this. No, leave my body. No, I'm not listening to you. You're the strongest person in your body because it belongs to you. Maybe with the help from spiritual things, maybe, but your doctor is within you.
Yes, I agree.
And we can heal ourselves from incredible things. I helped myself a year ago to avoid a back operation, and I have no pain at all anymore, although this was impossible. I just ordered my body, arrange it, clean it up.
Yes.
And the day after, it was gone. I was on the point of having my right leg amputated of the pain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I couldn't stand it anymore. So, but it wasn't in my leg, it was in my back. And I just said, no hospitals anymore. I just said, heal it. You're there for it. And the day after, it's almost a year now. The pain did not come back. So keep in mind that you have this strength within you.
Yes.
Use it.
Yes, right now the biggest priority is to stop these crimes. I do believe I'll be able to heal very well after this, but the torture is ongoing. It's very extreme, and you know, they just constantly say how much they want me dead. So right now the biggest priority is to stop these crimes, and then when we are free, we will heal.
Excellent.
Could I just come in and ask?
Yeah, go on, Justin, please.
Could I ask, I mean, obviously you've mentioned other countries where this sort of attacks are taking place, Poland and so forth.
Yes.
Do we know, is it really global across the world, or is it West, you know, is it so-called advanced countries? I mean, developing countries?
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you. It is absolutely global. This is happening to millions of people all over the world. People are complaining of electronic assaults from any and every country, third world countries and advanced countries. It's happening everywhere.
Just a couple of questions from me as well. So when you were about 7 years old, you used to suffer from restless light syndrome.
Yes.
Can you describe what that is a bit more, please?
Yes, well, I would be made to move my legs very frequently, like this, twitching back and forth, moving my legs repeatedly. Well, at very severe levels, actually, it was very severe. And nobody else in my family had that. I was the only one. When I would get scared and go to my parents' bed, I would be having to move my legs very, very quickly, very, very repeatedly, very, very big repeated movements of my legs. And they would say, stop, stop, stop. And I was the only one who would do that.
Okay, thank you for that. And but your mother was a nurse as well. So
she was.
What sort of nursing was she doing?
I don't know. She only practiced nursing for a very short amount of time when she was in Argentina. But then when we immigrated to the US, she stopped nursing altogether.
And what did she do then?
She was a missionary in the church with my father.
Okay. And are you still in touch with your mother and father?
Not my father, but yes, my mother.
And they're now apart, are they?
What was that?
Sorry, they've now divorced, or they're apart, or?
My parents are divorced, yes.
Thank you.
My mother lives in Colorado in my sister's care.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't need any information on your mother, but
Okay.
we're offering that.
Okay.
So just go through some of those questions that have been asked, and I think you are very brave, and I think what you have been, your time has been awful, and I think just to have sacrificed and lost so much of your life and that thing which has been taken from you is a terrible thing too. And I really hope that things like this testimony allow you some relief from that and understand that we do understand.
Thank you.
I think it's also important for us to also look at, as you're doing, and I'm really heartened by that, looking at how we can in the future, you in the future, can actually use this as benefit for others.
Yes, definitely.
Tell your story and to let others know that, you know, that they're not the only ones going through these very difficult, extreme situations.
Yes.
And to look for relief in that as well. So I'm glad that you're doing that and you're recognizing that, and you're recognizing the voices that the people are putting into your head as well.
Yeah.
Which is probably, that's amongst the hardest of the things, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, one of them. The sleep deprivation and the suffocation are particularly cruel.
Yeah, exactly. There's a list of really bad ones.
But
sure.
Yeah.
That's good. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to leave over now to Dr. Corrine. I think she could perhaps finish off with a few very important words.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, that's something very important, Chris. You talked about what her parents did, and she said they worked in a church. What kind of church is this?
Seventh-day Adventist Church. Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay. You know, I'm making a database from all these elements.
Mm-hmm.
And it occurs already now to me that most of the victims of this kind of manipulation, but also intra and all the others, are started by the church, the different churches, because they are different, but in fact it's all the Vatican, let's be honest about this, or the army. Children have been, I have the impression from what the profile is becoming large, that children are taken in churches or from military people. So I would like to stay in contact with you to have more specific information to fill in my database.
Absolutely.
There is a pattern, and the pattern always goes back to the same.
Okay.
The Vatican, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
CIA, Vatican.
Yeah.
And under this, there is army and churches.
So I think the key to take away, but just one question as well, which is just really a bit of assistance for people who are listening and don't know a lot of the language. What exactly is V2K?
V2K is voice to skull. That's where they project voices in your head. So you can hear voices, they put noises, they put clicking sounds, they put different noises, they even put music in your head. It's when you hear things in your head.
Very good. Okay, thank you very, very, very much for that help. And as Dr. Queen has said, you know, all this isn't your fault. Okay. Right. And we can work together to try and work out ways in which this sort of stuff can stop.
Yes.
And that's why we give testimony. So that if we can all hear it, we can start to join together the bits and pieces, seem to fit and find a pattern, and hopefully the pattern helps us to change the consensus. Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mariana, leave your mail address if you want to Connie, and I'll contact you later. Is that okay? Or if you're willing?
Absolutely. No, definitely. I'm very happy to help. I really want to be an activist for the cause and help stop these crimes in any way that I can. So please, I am more than happy, even thrilled to work with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
All the very best to you, Mariana. All the very best.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate your time here today.